Hey everyone, it's Kogi from creativekogi.com, and it's been a really long time since I have been here, quite possibly a full year. And I always think that it's about time to make a new video, and I just get caught up. So if you've joined me for the very first time, my name is Kogi Naidu. I do everything. I will try everything at least once. So I knit. I um, I'm a bit of a designer. I have designed knitted and crochet projects, which you'll find on Ravelry under Creative Kogi. And yeah, my username on Instagram and on Facebook is also Creative Kogi. And and I think, as I always say, not so much because that I think that I am creative and it's being, the name's quite obnoxious, arrogant, but a friend of mine actually came up with the name for me, and I had said, maybe it should be like Creative Kogi Crafts, KKK, and she was like, no, 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 not one KKK. That is politically incorrect. So what about just Creative Kogi? And the name is stuck, and I have changed my logo last year sometime, because I'd done a sort of mandala logo some years ago, and it was on free software, and there was no way I could get a high quality image to even reprint it, because the software allowed you to just save the picture in a very sort of modified format. So anyway, I live. I'm. I live in a suburb called Randburg, in South Africa, and it's actually, today's quite cold, but it's all relative. Our winters are not as severe, although we will tell you that we are freezing. We have very sort of mild temperatures in South Africa, but I'm very cold today, hence the sweatshirt. Is this called a sweatshirt? What is this called? Track top. A track top. And this is actually very old. It's from 2022, and it's when I did the bridge climb, the Sydney Harbour bridge climb in Australia, and I had to buy the track top to say, look, hey, I've done that. I'm not. Well, I don't think I was very athletic or fit then, and probably far worse now. So the good thing though is we moved house, so we're still in the same province, but we moved from one suburb into another, and it's all relative. It's not like hectically far. But I work from home 4 days a week, and on a Friday I go into the office, which is in Centurion. So for me, driving from Randburg to Centurion is almost like I am driving to another country. The traffic is just incredible. It's bad, and so I'm stuck in traffic both going to the office and returning, and I complain on a Friday afternoon because coming home is worse than the morning, that my left leg is really sore because I drive a manual vehicle, and it's just that stop start clutch in out the whole way. Anyway, so we moved into a new house, and I'll tell you a little bit about it now. But why am I here today? So my son, I have an 8-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter. And my son yesterday asked me, are you still doing YouTube? And I was like, oh, I haven't in a long time. Why? And he said, well, I told my friends at school that you're a famous YouTuber. So I thought, well, that actually, I was quite flattered. that he thinks I'm famous and that I'm a YouTuber, because it's a thing with kids these days. So I thought, let me come in and do a quick episode. I might be a YouTuber in that I watch a lot of other YouTube podcasts. But my life is incredibly busy. I have a full-time job. And then with school and the kids and homework and projects, and then me also wanting to have time to craft. So if you've watched any of my other videos, you would have heard me complain about my very tiny craft room, that if I kind of stretched out both ways, I touch the walls. But I'm incredibly blessed because in this new house, I have a very large space. So this room would have, well, it was originally 2 small bedrooms, and the center wall was taken out, and the one window was closed off. So I do have the one window. You can see the light coming in. It's kind of a dull day today, so it's not too much light. And we are load shedding at the moment, so there's no electricity. And if you're not in South Africa, you would not be familiar with load shedding. It's where there's too much pressure on the grid, on the power grid, so they switch us off for like 2 hours or 4 hours at a time to reduce the pressure on the grid. So we were meant to be load shedding from 8 until 10:30. The power came on just after 10 for about 2 minutes, and it's gone off again, so it's tripped somewhere. And technicians would have to be dispatched to go and fix the fault. So I don't know what time the power is going to come back on. So let me tell you quickly about this house that we live in. So Matthew moved to new school, and he needed to. He's an incredibly smart boy, and he was bored in mainstream school, so he needed a school that specialized in sort of dealing with kids with very high potential. He doesn't get it from me. Definitely gets it from Roger, I think. And so he started a new school last year in August. He was accepted into the school, we are so immensely grateful, because we were, once he had done the assessments and whatever, we were like, if he doesn't fit in here, where's he going to go? Because this child is really incredibly smart, and he needs to be challenged, and he needs an environment that is sort of stimulating, and that he enjoys, and he's bored. So he was accepted, and we were driving back and forth from where we had lived, and it's probably about 35 to 40 k's away, but with traffic. So here in South Africa, we're not as efficient with our public transport, and we have lots more cars on the road than possibly other countries abroad. So traffic is really heavy, and this poor child would be exhausted every day and probably fall off to sleep in on the drive home and also the drive to school. And so we wanted to move closer to the school, and then his sister was also going to join him early this year. So we by chance found this house, which is not actually, well, it used to be a house, and it functioned as a house. And I'm sorry that my cell phone seems to be constantly adjusting, and I'm going to see if I do that. I'm not sure if it will help, but anyway, it's been a long time since I've done a video. In fact, I don't think I have the editing software downloaded on my computer anymore. We'll have to see. So yes, so this house very quickly was being converted into a private school, and it was literally gutted. So there's no kitchen. It didn't have any showers. The garages were 2 big classrooms, and so before we had moved in, we had to install showers, remove the extra toilets, the urinals off the walls, add in an ensuite bathroom to the main bedroom, and we put the garages back. So we looked at older pictures of the house, and it had 3 arched garages, but we put in a sort of squarish or rectangular garages. So we did that. We still don't have a kitchen. I have a makeshift kitchen. I will at some point show you, and then I'm not sure when we would have a proper kitchen or what constitutes a proper kitchen. It's hugely expensive, and we have a lot of other priorities, but it's a beautiful house, and what it has going for it is very big. And I've had friends comment that our main bedroom is possibly quite all of their bedrooms put together. It is very, very big. The sun's just started coming in, so now it's gotten incredibly bright, which is good. Although the sky is still quite a murky grey, so it might still rain. This, as I said, this room would have been 2 bedrooms, and I'd initially said to Roger, well, maybe we should put the wall back in because we don't have a guest room. And then I'd have the one room as my study space, and the other could be a guest room. And he said that, well, we don't really have guests coming in to stay with us that often. If we do, we make a plan, but you use your study every day because I also work from home, and you should have the big space. So I have this massive big space. It extends far back there, where you can see my sewing machine, and then I have sewing machines behind this cupboard as well. I think if I can and I figure out how to, I will put in a little clip just showing you my space. It's not very neat, but anyway. So let's see, as a famous YouTuber, what do I have to tell you? I've had a number of projects completed over this year. I don't have all of them here now, but I have posted on Instagram and on Ravelry. My project page is now up to date. I'm becoming much better at doing that. Tiny projects because they go quickly, and I like the feeling of, well, there's a sort of accomplishment when you finish something and you're like, yay, I finished another object, and I can start something new. I'm a serial starter. I don't finish that much, but so I had done a test knit, and I will see if I can do a little sort of quick video at the end of this, or if I can figure out how to insert images here. But the Keraa sweater, I really thoroughly enjoyed knitting that. It has color work at the bottom of the sleeves and color work at the bottom of the sweater rather than a color work yoke, which I quite liked because everybody puts the color work up front here. So that was something different, and I'd also knitted that using the new El Merino, which I quite like. The fact that it's local, so it's 100% South African, and it's 100% wool. And it's affordable. That's the other thing. So it's kind of a budget wool. Yeah, budget wool. Because it can get quite expensive. It's not the cheapest hobby, I have to admit. But I think most of my hobbies are not cheap because they either require fabric or yarn or thread, and all of that's quite expensive. But what I have brought on my table to show you, I've just finished this. I'm not sure. It's inspired by Denmark, so it's Danish inspired. Susanne, I don't know. I'm not sure how one would pronounce it. but it would have sort of a Danish, I should know because I have been to Denmark, but I've just done this test knit. This went really quickly. I thoroughly enjoyed it. This is knitted in El Merino also, and I was able to get perfect gauge with it. So knitted the rib in 3.5 millimeter, and then the patterned crown in 4 millimeter. It's a bit dusty, and this is in the color oak. So the thing with El Merino also is that the colors are sort of, I mean, obviously when you're doing a big project, try and get everything from the same dye lot, but the colors are kind of consistent, if that's the word. Yeah, consistent. So yeah, this is something that I finished just last week. And then I have one sock. So in my Naughty Habit sock blocker, Naughty Habit is one of my favorite yarn dyers. So I wanted to see how this knitted up. I was very excited. This is, I think I have it here, yeah. This is this one. It's Halycyon Superwash Comfort Socks. It's 75% wool and 25% polyamide or nylon polyamide. And it's 100 grams and there are 420 meters. I like self-patterning yarn because it's like a surprise. You just kind of knit. It's mindless knitting. So you're knitting in plain stockinette stitch, and then the pattern just appears. So I have one done, and then because of where I'm trying not to waste the yarn, but because of where the next bit started, I decided to do little shorty socks for my daughter. This I take with me to the pool. So when the kids have their swim lessons, then I can sit and knit. Well, I've only taken it once, but there's a swim lesson today, so I'll take it with today. These I'm knitting on these needles. I'm not doing magic loop. I'm using these Addy needles, these Addy Flexi needles. I'd seen them online and I really wanted to try it, and I have no complaints. They're awesome. And the reason why I have these is because I'd cast on at the pool, and I'd forgotten to take a stitch marker. So usually I knit with the Chiagu mini circulars. Because I didn't have a stitch marker, I decided I'll do this because then it's easy to see where your beginning of the round is, because that's where my tail is. So yeah, I think I will continue these ones on these 3 flexi needles. And what else am I doing? Yeah, I have just work in progress. What piece is this? Oh, this is a sleeve. So this is for Talia, my daughter. I've knitted all the pieces. I just need to seam it. So it's a little pink cardigan. She loves hearts. She's a very girly girl. She loves hearts. She loves rainbows. She loves pink. And so I've knitted all the pieces, and then on the front there's also this little heart. I just have to stitch that. I literally have to seam it and then pick up stitches and knit the button band. Is it a button band? Well, I don't think it has buttons. It's one of those open cardis, or it might have buttons. Oh, I'm not sure. So I have to do that. So yeah, that's my work in progress. I did say that I've done a few sweaters. I've done the bean and olive pattern from Andrea Maury for Talia, and I did the chest. I got gauge and I measured the chest circumference, and then I chose the correct size, but I found that the neckline was a little bit too big, and I wanted the sweater not to be fitted but to be quite loose on her, just to be comfortable. And so then I adjusted the pattern on my second one, which I had also used self-patterning yarn on, and I made the neckline a lot smaller, so the smaller size neckline, and then adjusted the stitches for the bigger size when I got onto the yoke and the body, and the fit is a lot better. So when I do another one, because I will, they're simple sweaters to knit, and they're mindless sweaters, so you don't really have to pay too much attention, and I can do it when I'm doing other things. So for example, Matthew has to read. I mean, he's actually quite a good reader, and I don't like to sit right next to him and kind of hover and point out words. So I sit and listen, and whilst I'm listening, I knit. And then if he gets stuck or he stumbles, over a word, or he pronounces it incorrectly, then I can correct him. And sometimes he stops to ask, so what does this actually mean? And then I'm able to do that, but at the same time I'm able to knit, and that's how I managed to get quite a lot done. So yes, so that's on my needles. I made Natalia a DRK everyday cowl. She actually wore it to school today. I didn't get a picture. So yeah, this afternoon I will ask her to pose. She's very sweet. She will pose. She likes having a photo taken, I think. Maybe she gets that from me. A bit of a wannabe model. So I will ask her to pose for a picture. I did the size, so my yarn was thinner and I didn't check the gauge. So it is quite fitted, and I think if I have to do another one, probably thicker yarn, and check the gauge, or maybe just increase the stitches. So I actually had done the size youth, and I like, so the thing is, the width is smaller but the length is perfect. So I will have to figure out how to make the adjustments to get the width wider, and keep the length the same. So and it is, I don't remember what the yarn is called. Yeah, but I'm now knitting her. If I can get this right. So she loves these colors. So she's, as I said, she loves rainbow colors, and she's so into rainbows and pinks and that sort of shade. So this is the keyhole scarf, and it's very cool. It's such an easy knit. So it's just garter stitch, but you start at this point and you cast on 2, and you kind of increase until you get the right number of stitches, and then you knit a few rounds. And then what you do here to make the keyhole, this is actually quite interesting, I've never done one of these before, is you knit 1 stitch and you slip 1 stitch off onto a double pointed needle, and then you knit the 2 pieces separately and then bring them together. So you knit them back onto the same needle, like one from the one needle and one from the other, and then you do this bit, and then we will repeat this onto the other side. So it'll kind of go around the neck, and she'll be able to thread, this leaf will go into the keyhole, and she'll have a little bow scarf. She thinks it's very cute. So I might be making a few more of these. They're quick and easy knits. I have a bit of a sore throat. My kids have been quite sick recently, and it's sort of hurting when I swallow. So I'm just going to quickly sip on something. I have coffee. I should actually drink this whilst it's still hot. How gorgeous is this mug? It's my Amazing Grace mug. It's one of my all-time favorite songs. It's Amazing Grace, How Sweet the Sound. Absolutely love it. So I had to get a mug with the words on it. So what am I planning to do? Okay, so this hat by, I don't think I told you who the designer is. It's Kirsten Michele. Kirsten lived, I can't remember now. I think she might have been born in the UK but lived in South Africa for many years. In fact, she still has family in South Africa and now lives in Poland. And she has the most beautiful patterns on Ravelry, and I've tested 2 sweaters for Kirsten before. The Consonity, yes, and now for the life of me the name has flown out of my head, the Lipai cardigan, which was a colorwork cardigan but knitted flat, and it was something I hadn't done before and I really wanted to try, and that's what test knitting sort of gives me the opportunity to do. So I do like test knitting, but I also I choose the projects that I actually want to wear, or the designers. Sometimes I'm a bit biased because if it's a designer I like, then it doesn't matter what it is, I would want to test knit, but I don't do a lot of test knitting. Because sometimes I have this long list of sweaters that I would like to knit, and I also have a yarn stash that I need to get through, and I have been trying to work my way through, but it doesn't help when you buy new yarn to add to the stash. So it's that is the life of a crafter. You never have enough stash. I did try to give away quite a lot of what I didn't think I would need, but it's not easy because I like everything. There's this podcast, or actually it was a show on Netflix, I think, and it's this Japanese woman, Marie Kondo, I think it was Marie Kondo, and she said, hold it close to you, and if it brings you joy, hold on to it, but if it doesn't bring you any joy, then get rid of it. And so I tried, and it was very time consuming, and I kind of held a few things. I was like, no, everything makes me happy, and this method's not for me. So I did try to clear out stash when we moved. I tried to keep only things that I would want to do. The craft supplies and cross-stitch kits and all of that, they're quite expensive, and I had invested quite a lot of money in it, so couldn't give away everything for free, because one has to also have enough money to add on to the stash. So I sold a few of my cross-stitch kits. I probably have quite a few that I don't think I would ever do, but maybe Italia, maybe someday she'd want to cross-stitch, then we'll see. Or my niece may want to do it. So what's on my needles now besides this? I'm going to cast on in this color. I like this color. I think it's versatile, and I wear a lot of dark jeans, even to the office on a Friday, dark blue or black, and I think the sweater will go well with that. So I have enough yarn for my new cast on, and it's for the sweater version of this hat. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this particular test knit for Kirsten Michele is because the design is Danish inspired, and I felt like, it would be nice for me to have a sweater that reminds me of my time in Denmark. So 2 things more I want to show you, and I have been now talking for a lot. I've been wanting to keep it quite short. I think I'm very good at taking a very short story and turning it into a very long story. So I could do a long version of anything. For Lace Day, I got this yarn. It is absolutely gorgeous. It's Elded yarns. I think I'm saying it right. And let's see what does it say. Elded yarns are expertly hand dyed in small batches in Parys, a beautiful town on the edge of the Vaal River in the Free State. And our mission is to make more people fall in love with fiber art by creating colorways inspired by nature, food, people, cinema, and events. I love it. And there's an online store that you can shop at. I will link to it. And this one is called Nutmeg and Cinnamon. It's 100% superwash wool double knit, and yeah, it's approximately 100 gram or 185 meters. So I will link to that. This yarn I got from one of my all-time favorite wool shops, who have yarn that suits every pocket. So they have really nice yarn. A lot of acrylics though, so a lot of crochet blanket making yarn, and a range of prices, as I said, to suit any pocket. And that's the wool shop. And I will also put that link down. And the wool shop, I've been supporting them for years and years. When I was doing lots and lots of charity blankets, I would get all my yarn from them. I had what I thought would fix the arm. I had what is it? Tendinitis. I think it's called. It slips me now, but I was sort of an avid crocheter, so I could churn out blankets. And I've had trouble working with anything really heavy, so I haven't been crocheting too much. But yeah, for especially when you want large quantities of blanket yarn, or you're making tons of charity blankets for charity, then the wool shop is where you should go check out and get your yarns. And they are awesome because they offer a 5% discount on your purchase if you use the code Creative Kogi on checkout. So yeah, go check them out. They also keep the El Merino. They've had it. In fact, I didn't know about El Merino, and they told me about it. So that's where I get this from. They also now have quite a range of knitting needles and crochet hooks. So it's an awesome shop. And I recently added on to some of my knitting needles. So they also keep Chiagu now. And I got the short needles. I've been using them with my keyhole sweater, because you've got to keep some of these stitches on a double pointed spear needle. So these are awesome, and I actually quite like the length of this. So this is my original needles, and then these are my shorties. You can see, especially when you're working on cuffs using even the magic loop, I quite like this size. So yeah, I've been adding on slowly. Not that I need an excuse, but I think I've become quite the knitter now. Most recently, and I think it might be my last post on Instagram, is the Halycyon Sweater. I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly, but it was 6mm needles and knitted in 100% cotton. And I have quite a stash of Nurturing Fibers eco cotton that I've had now for years, and was trying to figure out what do I want to make with this cotton. And I knitted this sweater in the color fawn, but I found that my metal needles were quite slippery on the cotton, so I went back to my knit pro sets, which are these wooden needles. So yeah, my set had, what did it start with? It started from 3.5mm up to 8, but then I sat on my 3.5mm by mistake, and it literally broke off. So they're interchangeable, so you can unscrew the cables, and they and I sat on it. It was on the couch, and I just sat on it, and it broke. So I'm quite sad about that, because I treasure my knitting and crochet accessories. So the only other thing, and then I got, sorry, I didn't say where I got this from. So I got this from the Little Yarn Craft, and the Little Yarn Craft is owned by the amazing Lauren Ackerman, The last time I said Ackerman because I thought she was Afrikaans, but she isn't. So Lauren Ackerman. And Lauren's amazing because I wanted to knit in 2020. Yes, 2020 I did a sock along where, as I typically would as a scientist, do a lot of research before I start a project. I just have to sip this. And I put together a full-on tutorial on how you could knit your own socks by measuring your foot and taking all the essential measurements and then using a sock calculator to tell you how many stitches to cast on. And the needles I had just kept snagging the yarn, and I saw that she also keeps chiagu, and so I phoned her and I said I'd really like to buy a 2.5 millimeter needle and cable, and everyone raves about chiagu. I don't know too much about it. Can you help? And she said, well, I don't have any in stock now, but you can use my personal needles, which is amazing. For knitting, well, a yarn store owner to say, just use mine. I mean, I would never lend you my chiagu needles. I'm quite precious about them. So I got my first set of chiagu needles from Lauren at the Little Yarn Craft, and I was there to fetch my this yarn, and then got some sock blockers. These are slightly big for Talia, but her feet are growing, so I think it's a good investment, and they're awesome. They're quite thick, and so especially if you're putting wet socks on them, if you're wet blocking socks, then you want something that's not going to absorb too much water and break off. And yeah, so it's, look at this cute sheep. It's very cute. So I got that, and then I also got this from her. This is the African Expression Soul, and I have some left over from a project I done last year, and I want to get these crazy pink socks made for Talia. And this is awesome for socks because it is 15% kid mohair, 15% mulberry silk, 50% merino wool, and 20% polyamide. So you can get this one from the Little Yarn Craft. And I think that's it. I was meant to come in very quickly to touch base, say hello, and I've been sitting here now for 37 minutes. Yeah, I can talk, that's for sure. I want to end by telling you, so even though I've not been on YouTube for a while, I do watch YouTube. There's a few podcasts that I absolutely enjoy, that completely inspire me, and where I learn a lot from. And the one that I watch weekly is Andrea Maury. So DRK, I'll knit if I want to. So she has this weekly podcast on a Friday where she answers questions from knitters around the world. And yeah, I mean, I've even commented, and I'd asked her once, like, do you knit all of your patterns? Because I mean, she's producing patterns constantly, and I know that some of the other designers do a design or a swatch, and then they send it off to knitters to knit it. So I was very interested to know whether she knitted her own sweaters, and she does. She actually knits all of her own samples and then gets them test knitted, which is amazing. So she's not designing swatches, but she's actually knitting the entire garment. So I do watch that on a Friday, and I will link all of these to the show notes so that you can also, if you're not subscribed to them, to these podcasts, it's worth subscribing to, I promise. So the one I find so enjoyable is Anne and Carlos. They are awesome. They have videos not just on knitting and crochet, but they also do. Anne is amazing. I giggle every time he giggles. It's just the sound of his voice. But he does embroidery and cross stitch and tapestry, and they do gardening, and they building insect hotels in their gardens. That's a nice concept. And it's something that I think I need to do with the kids because it's big. abroad. I mean, when we were in Denmark last year, we'd seen quite a few of these insect hotels because the insect population had declined, and insects are so important for the environment, as pollinators and that. So yeah, it's just they just have so many, and they like pop in. They have I'll sit in it for a bit, where they just talk. So I often sit in it and listen to them, and they also just pop in every now and again, and they do these quick little videos for YouTube. And the podcast that I absolutely love is Danish Musings. I by chance found the podcast. And Danish Musings is by a Danish lady. Her name's Helle. I'm probably not saying it right, but she also says Helle for those of you who can't say the Danish pronunciation. And she started off this podcast during lockdown, and it started around very short sort of podcasts about just experiencing the dark winter in Denmark. She would take you out in the countryside when she went for a walk, and she talked about things like mindfulness and taking risks and being grateful. And I was hooked, and I didn't know that she was also a knitter. I think maybe she also didn't realize she was going to do knitting podcasts. And I watched one that was more recent, and then I was like, no, I love this. I'm going to go back to her very first video. And that's what I did. And they're very short. And at the end of it, I feel like, oh, Helle, please make your podcast longer. Please make it longer. So her very last podcast, which was around knitting, was longer than her normal. But she kept saying, I'm sorry this is so long. I'm sorry this is so long. And I was like thinking, no, it's perfect. It's perfect. This is the length. Like, you need to keep it this long because I just want to listen to your voice. She has the most beautiful, soothing voice. It just instantly calms me down. And I'm often very frantic and rushed and stressed out. And I just listen to her podcast and I feel instantly calm and like kind of together. So you must watch the Danish Musings. The other one that I watch is the Knitty Stew. She's amazing. She's a stewardess and she travels within different, I don't know what are they called in Canada, states. I'm not sure if it's provinces. We have provinces here in South Africa, so I think it might be states. But she travels. She's a stewardess, so the Knitty Stew for stewardess. And then when she does these overnight trips, then she takes you on a tour to the town and the local yarn shops. She knits a lot. And one of the things that I got from her is she always has a list of patterns, like this to-do list, and it's like, I've had my eye on this forever, and then I immediately I'm like writing frantically, taking down the details, because then I go check it out and I'm like, oh, I like this too. She keeps it very real, which I love. And she talks about if she's done something a bit wrong, she talks about the errors and how she's fixed it. She does lots of giveaways. I think she's just she's just really such a giving person, because she's always giving away yarn. She's also a bit of a dyer, I think. So I do love the Knitty Stew podcast, and I looked at her project page on Ravelry, and it is it's pages. It's not a page. So it's lots and lots of projects, and she puts everything onto Ravelry, and she tries as hard as she can to put in all the details. And what she also does is she also tells you what podcasts she likes watching, because there's so many out there, and you don't know which ones to watch and which ones not to. And when your time's limited, as mine often is, then I'm quite also selective on what I can and can't watch. And then I left the best for last, which is fruity knitting. And fruity knitting is now 130, I suppose, odd episodes. I love it. It's a full-on 1 hour-ish sort of magazine program around knitting, around fiber arts, just crafting. Sometimes there's a bit of music, musicians featured. There's always nice music, and they put in a lot of effort into creating the content. So they proper content creators. It's very well edited, and it is so worth watching. And I also found it by chance, and then went to episode 1 and started watching it, and I've kind of followed the history. And I think it was in 2021. So it was hosted by a couple, Andrew and Andrea, and Andrew passed on, and he had a brain tumor that was inoperable. And I mean, I sat and watched the memorial service, feeling like I knew him so well, and cried for somebody that I'd never met in my life. And it's just, yeah, he was just so good. He was amazing. So those are the podcasts. And then I want to go now, and I really should do this more often. I think I should do this more often. I'm going to try, especially since my son thinks I'm a famous YouTuber. I saved this. I was going to talk about this, and it almost slipped my mind because I didn't plan this. I kind of just talk off the cuff. But last year, I had joined the Naughty Habit Yarn Club. So Naughty Habit is owned by a really awesome lady, Mincy Van Zale. She dyes the most beautiful colors. She's also done a few custom dyes for me because I'm useless with colors. I kind of show her the pattern and I tell her I'm leaning towards the shade, what else would go with it, and she just kind of put everything together. So they have Naughty Habit has the sock club and a yarn club, and last year I did the yarn club. So once a quarter you receive a box like this, and it's full of goodies. So this year I'm doing the sock club because I'm into knitting socks again. And in my box, so this year the theme is inspired by the women in our lives. So it's inspired by the women that have had an influence in her life, and this is now exclusively dyed for the yarn club. And look at this, it's gorgeous. So yeah, and there's something about Naughty Habit yarn, you just want to, it smells so good. It always does. I'm always sniffing my yarn when it arrives. So yeah, this is fingering 3-ply. It's 75% merino, 25% nylon, and I can't wait to cast on socks with these. I'm going to have lots of hand knitted socks this year. And yeah, there's always a handwritten note. This box also has a little bar of soap. There was also a cookie in here, but that's not here anymore. And then there's a crafty candle. This is sweet pea and vanilla soy candle. Yeah, smells really good. And then there is yeah, this is a badge, says Naughty Sock Club 2023. I think it's pronounced Yakumina, so this is inspired by, I'm not sure if this is Mincy's mom or grandmom, but Yakumina inspired. And then there's also a voucher, so you get a voucher which gives you 50 Rand off your next purchase. And then this stitch marker, it's so cute. This is from Itsy Klein. I will also link to her. And then look at this one. Let's hold it like this. How cute is yeah, that's also an Etsy stitch marker. So I have quite a collection of stitch markers now from Etsy. I mean, each one is just handcrafted and they're so beautiful. But, right, I must stop. I must work. It's a work day. I must get back to work. So thank you for sitting in and listening to me ramble on and on and on. It actually felt good to be back. I'm probably not going to include the video of my craft room. Let's leave it for next time. I want to try and still keep this quite short because I know you all have busy lives, and I hope you've watched till the end. I hope I was interesting enough to keep you to the end. So yes, I will try and do this quite soon. And maybe add some video footage of both my house and this room, and the things that make me happy in this room. I will see if I can do that. And yes, if you've enjoyed watching it, please do subscribe. That helps because then I also I see whether it's actually worth for me to do this. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So if you've enjoyed it or liked it even just a teeny little bit, do subscribe, and we will see you soon. Hopefully not next year, because I know last year I said I'm calling this episode 1, but I can't tell you when episode 2 will be made. It might be next month, it might be next week, it might even be next year, and it turned out that it's actually next year. So I'm going to try for episode 3 quite soon. It was fun talking. Especially now that I'm crafting more, knitting more, and I have more projects. I think it's exciting for me to show you. I'm going to be a bit more structured next time, and I think what I'm going to do is also just quickly tell you what I've completed, what I'm still working on, if there were any acquisitions. I'm trying not to spend money on yarn, so there might not be. And what I've been watching, and maybe what I've been reading, because I'm reading a lot and thoroughly enjoying it, so I will do that. Yes, so as I've said, if you liked it, please do subscribe, give me a thumbs up, let me know if you like it, please comment. I'll try and respond to all of them if I can, and then until next time. So episode 2 done, dusted. See you next time. Bye.